Brought to you by Dale Carnegie of Orange County. This is the 411 on Leadership podcast, where we discuss common sense leadership practices with executives in Southern California to transform you into the leader people want to follow.
Well, good Monday morning, and welcome once again to the 411 on Leadership. Sitting next to me to my right is Mr. Steve Thomas. Good morning, Steve.
Hey, good morning, John. This is John Campbell. He is director of missions relations. Always, it's hilarious. I always have like the little stutter stop on a Monday, and I realize why that is. And I think our guest is going to help us with that.
Yes.
It's Turkish coffee. I need to have some Turkish coffee.
Stay tuned in.
Up and running. So.
Find out what's the Turkish coffee. So
right.
we are powered once again, and as always, by Sitch Radio. And make sure that you reach out to Sitch Radio for your podcasting needs. If there's something that you're even considering talking about that you've got expertise in, talk to Brian. He'll get you set up with that. And once again, we want to bring those leadership principles, empowered also by Dale Carnegie of Orange County. Steve.
John, I'm excited about the next series of podcasts we are going to be doing. We're going to be focusing on what does it mean for leaders to be inclusive. And so, you're hearing a lot about the word inclusion and diversity, and inclusion is different from diversity. And so when we talk about inclusion, there's so many meanings behind what that means. And we're going to keep it wide open so that when our guests are joining, we can hear from them, what does inclusion mean to them? But kind of like that overarching theme of what, inclusion would be. And for us is, making sure that not only is everybody welcomed to the table, but then they're having a voice that's heard and that's valued as well. Quick stat, and we're going to get to our guest, is from Salesforce. And I remember reading this stat before, and the stat was that employees who feel their voice is heard are 4.6 times more likely to feel empowered to perform their best work. And so as we go through these next podcasts, just think about your organization. What does 4.6 times better or best work mean for your organization? And so there are some characteristics and traits that our contributors are looking for in us as leaders in order for us not only to be more inclusive, but really provide that environment where they feel like they're heard and they're valued and that they can do their best work. And one of those characteristics is that of empowerment. And so I'm excited to have this person join us today. He is the co-founder and CEO of JobzMall. His name is Nathan Candaner. I want you to say your Turkish name in a little bit, because I really want to bring that out just to kind of highlight his culture there. Is it Candaner?
Yeah, that's accurate.
That's
awesome.
Wow.
All right, perfect. So Nathan, again, CEO, co-founder of JobzMall, which is the world's fastest growing career community for Gen Z. After struggling to land a job himself while he was in college using traditional job boards, he realized how disconnected hiring companies are to the Gen Z population looking for jobs. So he went ahead and he did something about that. And he's going to talk a little bit about more what his organization is doing. But since its launch, JobzMall has grown to a size of 900,000 job seekers and have partnered with thousands of organizations ranging from small businesses, nonprofit organizations, startups, and Fortune 500 companies utilizing video resumes and video job ads. So you talk about cutting edge and doing something different in the job market. That's what Nathan and JobzMall is doing. And I got to brag on this for him as well. And in 2019, Nathan was honored as Forbes 30 Under 30 due to his achievements and contributions to the employee technology sense. And all that aside, I will have to mention that of all the person I've met, I would have to say Nathan is definitely one of the good guys. I mean, it's just the feeling that you have, but definitely he's a good guy whose mission really is to impact the world with what he does. And so with that being said, Nathan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I mean, I have to come here every Monday now to get my weekly motivation if I'm going to be pampered like this. Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much, Steve.
No, we're so excited that you're coming to join us. And I know that the connection has been first with John and yourself. And so thanks for joining on the podcast. So enough about what we're saying about you. We want to hear from you.
Thank you.
Tell us about your leadership journey and how did that lead to the creation of JobzMall?
Of course. Well, first and foremost, other than this amazing intro, which I'm very thankful for, I would like to thank you guys and Stitch Radio and Dale Carnegie of Orange County for doing such an important mission-oriented, should I call, initiative at a time like this, where I think globally we're having a leadership crisis. When you it's very seldom that you go onto a news site or wherever you go and read a leadership story that you feel inspired of. It's nothing but chaos, and it's always bad news. But when we look at the community level, grassroots, you hear amazing, inspiring stories.
Yeah.
Now, I'm humbled that I'm part of this conversation as me and my organization, JobzMall, about this. But more than anything, it's very important to get the word out there and say that, hey, although it might look like chaotic, there are amazing stories happening in our community. And there is, it's not that bleak. And we're going through a change.
Yep.
And whether people like it or not, the change is for the good. That's what I choose to believe. So with that leeway, I want to thank you guys for also including JobzMall into this conversation. Now, what we do at JobzMall, you mentioned it perfectly, from a very high level. We connect job seekers and organizations through the power of video. We do that with video resumes. We do that with video cover letters and video job ads. Why video is a different story, though, because we want to highlight the human factor in this job finding process. Right now, and we've done this before COVID, and COVID has been I think all of our lives have been different, before COVID and after COVID. But the biggest problem was the entire process was segmented, and it's really inhuman. You have to upload a piece of resume over and over again, which is all text-based. It's not, most of the time, it's not even written by you, right? It's done by some professional. It's tweaked.
Right.
And it's just a door opener. And you get a barrage of text resumes, and you don't know who the person is. You don't know anything about them. You don't get a glimpse of who they are as a person. So the best way to go around this is having connections, right? But when you put yourself in shoes of a 20-year-old, you have no connections. You don't have any resume. You don't have a past. You're not going to get hired because of your past. You're going to get hired because of your potential.
Oh, wow.
Because of who you are.
Yeah.
So how are you going to shine and show your potential on a resume? Well, you can't. So there is nothing for you to show, right? So our entire approach was, and a lot of the people we've been talking to, they're like, if they get to see me, they'll hire me. I'm a go-getter.
Yeah.
How are they going to see you? So we approached it very differently. We launched JobzMall in order to humanize the process through video. Organizations also humanize themselves, because you read the job description, it's as if every company is Google. They have amazing perks. They're the fun, the most fun place to work. It's not the case, right? They're all unique, though. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But they're not really highlighting how unique they are, because they're trying to all compete with Google.
Sure.
Right? They're not showing what is unique about them. So we approached it very differently since our launch, and we launched before COVID. We've started growing, and with COVID, the game changed. Massive unemployment,
right? And
no in-person interviews. Everything has changed in that regard. Prior, we focused on Gen Z and college job seeker, or the first-time job seeker, people that are going to be hired for their potential, not for their past. But with COVID, we saw a huge diversity in our demographic. Now we're closing in our millionth user. And it's just really humbling to see how we're touching people's lives and humanizing the entire process.
So quick question for you, and then John, I'll have you come in as well. So, with you having to transform your business throughout COVID, what did that mean specifically for you as a leader? What are the things that you had to do, not only personally, but with your team to help, navigate COVID and even pivot in some instances to take advantage of, what's, the opportunities that may come throughout COVID?
That's a very nice question. And, I think our approach on COVID has changed throughout as COVID unfolded. The scariest part was the beginning. because no one knew what was going on. And I think a leader has to shine only at times of uncertainty, not at times of certainty. You don't have to remind who the boss is every day at the workplace. Some people like that for interesting reasons, but I think the only approach of a good leader is at times of uncertainty, they have to navigate not just themselves, but their herd, their team.
Right.
Yeah.
And our approach was, we understood from the beginning that this was going to stay for a while. And the biggest thing was, we did realize there was going to be a massive hiring freeze. On top of it, massive unemployment. So we had to pivot our company. We at the time, we gave 3-month freemium to all of the companies we've been working with.
Okay.
Which means 3 months no revenue.
Yeah.
Like you're willing to go absolutely not making any money for 3 months, at least for the 3-month period. We then extended that because we didn't want to be a burden. If someone is willing to hire out there at this time, we shouldn't be a burden or a friction for them to get the word out there. So because we were not going to make out of it just by us making out of it. We can only make out of this by working together as a community. So that was our biggest shift in that regard. We had to be very agile. We had all of our team members pitch in their opinions. We worked towards making it easier for even employers to be on presence. We expanded on our career services for our job seekers, because people that were unemployed, guess what? They've been working at the same company for 12 years and now they're unemployed. They don't have a resume. So how can we help that? So we gave credits for them to get better resumes, better career coaching services. So again, we were willing to do that, realizing of the cost that would incur. But we were willing to go for it. And our number one approach was, hey, we need to survive, but we can survive only if we all survive. And I think where we are right now is much more different than 1.5 years ago, when you couldn't find toilet papers anymore. I think that has been a big change.
Well, and that's, you talked about initially JobzMall, that you're on the employee side. The target market was that Gen Z, and I'm guessing they're tech first, right? They're used to the digital, the app version, the video, and now because of COVID, old people like myself and others, have had to adopt and get extremely comfortable for that. And so you're both sides. I'm guessing the employer side and the employee side have had to adjust and be able to grow into that.
Definitely. I had many, I tried to convince many people that I was going to meet on Zoom or Google Meet prior to COVID. Many people didn't know Zoom. So I, stopped asking for Zoom. I went with, Google Meet. But a lot of the companies, they were very not digital. I think this was a huge digitalization factor. And secondly, a lot of companies were skeptical of video resumes. They really were, especially larger companies, they were complacent with their process because they have a healthy candidate coming in. They don't know what they're missing out on. They're, as the large, companies get larger, inefficiencies get larger. So they really didn't see, there was a huge friction on adopting video resumes. With COVID, that completely changed. So while other, I don't want to say competitors, but other people that, do what we do, were trying to stick to how they've been doing business, we gained a lot of traction because of video resumes. So I think on that level, I feel at least there is some brightness into this disaster of a event we went through.
Which speaks to just turning those challenges into those opportunities. And as a leader, being aware of that and just, again, not responding like, oh my God, what are we going to do? I mean, we can do that in private, but when we're out in front of our team, just, recognizing what those opportunities may come out of, the challenges that we're coming across. So we're talking with Nathan Candaner. He is CEO and co-founder of JobzMall. And so if you have any comments or questions for Nathan, go ahead and put that in the chat box. Go ahead and give us a thumbs up if you're liking the content. And so we would love to respond and create a community on Mondays at 10 o'clock in the morning before we start out our day. So Nathan, as we are communicating, as we're having this conversation, and there are those CEOs that are out there that are listening as well as maybe people that are directors or just are in various degrees of leadership. Let's talk about inclusion and inclusivity. And so what does being an inclusive leader mean for you, and how does empowerment fit into that?
No, that's perfect. I think inclusion is in the intro you said something very nice, giving seats at the table for people. I think inclusion even goes beyond that. You can't have inclusion if you're not empowering people. And empowerment in our line of how I see things is equals to ownership. No one's gonna be empowered if they're not owning their piece of the company, their piece of the project, their piece of the initiative. Not micromanaged or doing certain things certain way because it's how the superiors want it. We believe that power over approach is a dead approach. I think as we move forward, it has to be power with.
Okay.
You have to implement and you have to grow by empowering everyone in your team. That's what I think inclusion is. It's not just hitting certain numbers and saying, hey, look, we're inclusive. And a lot of people also confuse diversity and inclusion, and that's something you mentioned too. I think I don't find those approaches sincere. I think the biggest way to include people is by empowering them and giving them not just a seat, but giving them ownership of the areas that they're doing. And that is built on trust. Well, if you don't trust your team, or if you don't trust your company, same thing, right? Trust has to be both ways. That's, I think, the huge problem that I see in the workplaces. Businesses tend to distrust their own people,
right? And
their own people tend to distrust their companies. And that's why even the HR department acts mostly as a police within the company to make sure that the company is not liable.
Right.
So when you have that environment, it's hard to break that. But I think true good leadership, true leaders that inspire trust, that give trust back, that put the human factor above anything else, that we're all human and we're all there to get a job done. And you're there to get a job done. I'm here to get a job done. We all have our own jobs, and that's my area. And how can we harmoniously work together? I think that's what inclusion is. I know that was a loaded way of saying
that's a great. No,
I tell this to my team as well, and everyone I do business with. Sometimes I talk a lot, so you have to guide me or cut me off.
No, you know what? It's all good, because I was like, man, I'd be writing a book if I hadn't brought up the next question. This is all good stuff right here.
We don't even have enough time because there's so many questions that we've got. I mean, just again, and we had a user comment on here or someone that was watching said, hats off to Nathan for recognizing the needs of job career seekers and helping them differentiate themselves from everyone else in line. Video resume is definitely more palatable than the print version. And so we've got people listening.
Thank
you. You talk about somebody hitting the need. Talk about Nathan just really hitting the need and somebody responding to that. So that's awesome.
Thank you.
So as we expand, and one of the things, and I'm sure you've heard it, is especially when we're looking at diversity and inclusion.
Yep.
Sometimes there's that idea that says, well, let's do the blind resume, right? So that what someone looks like doesn't impact. What is that? How does that work for a video resume? What's your response to that?
No, I think that's a good approach, but I think that's all realizing that we all have biases, right? And trying the blind resume approach is, I think, a patch on the problem. They're like, hey, we all have biases. We have to acknowledge that. We all do. And blindly approaching might seem nice, but you're going to meet with that person at some point.
True.
So those biases are not going to go away. They're going to come out later. So to have that approach is, I think, although the intent is nice, I don't think it's long lasting.
Okay.
I think what video resume enables is that you see a person that you have a bias of, but you just focus on what he says or she says. And our video resumes are a bit different. We have something called Video Resume Studio. So instead of people talking blindly about themselves, they answer questions, just like I'm doing one right now. So questions can range from, hey, why should we hire you for this position, to, tell us about your greatest failure. And they have 90 seconds to answer. So that time limitation also, creates more substance. You have to answer that question within that 90-second period. So when a hiring manager or the world watches you, they see you answering specific questions, having conversations. And what that enables is that you might see a person that you're like, that person doesn't look like me. That person has a name that I don't recognize. It has a Turkish flair or a French flair, right? But what he's saying makes sense. I actually want to talk more to him. And we had many instances of this. But it was hard to communicate that, again, prior to COVID, because people were used to doing certain things certain way, and they didn't want to adapt. COVID showed all of us that we have to adapt, whether you like it or not. And that's what, grow a lot of, made us grow even further during COVID, which was an interesting period for us because, again, we're, companies are not hiring, but job seekers are looking for a job. So it was a very interesting balance for us. But long story short to you, I think it's all about realizing we're all human. We all have biases, but, those biases come from not knowing, when you don't know the other culture, the other person, just because they don't look like you, they don't have the name like you, because they're a different gender maybe. But we try to bridge that with radical honesty and transparency as opposed to cutting transparency back. And I think the blind resume approach is cutting transparency back and saying, all right, I like you as a person, but you're going to see them. And the moment you see them, those biases will come out. So our idealistic approach is to break those biases, not, delay them. So that's how idealistic we are. But we do have the numbers and things to see. More than half of our placements and video resumes are by people of color and minorities. And one of the earliest conversations we had was, is this going to be a tool that's only used by white males, right? That was a question. That was like, is this going to be that? But our numbers was, in the early days, especially African-American women was 80% of our video applications. And we're like, what is going on here? And the more we talked with our community, we saw that, hey, I'm putting myself out there. I don't care what you have, if I'm going to get repulsed or it's going to affect me. This is who I am. And we were able to diversify that tremendously. We have a feature if our listeners are goes to JobzMall.com. We have a section called Cinema, where people can have their video resumes public, so they can put themselves out there as well. So if you look at the people out there, I mean, it's really diverse. People just putting themselves out there and being comfortable with who they are.
That sounds awesome. You get to empower them and own who they are.
I was saying the exact same point. Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I mean, we're talking about, initially, not only are you empowering your team, but you're empowering the people that are using your service as they're putting themselves out there. And one thing about if we talk about inclusivity, actually, and this is from Mark Marone. He's one of our lead thought leaders in Dale Carnegie. He says inclusivity requires that we grow first and foremost our self-confidence. So it's a lot more than that, but it really begins with us in growing our self-confidence. And I see JobzMall utilizing their service to empower those that are out there to not only help increase their self-confidence, but obviously getting that job that they're wanting to get. So we're talking with Nathan Candaner. He is CEO of JobzMall. And Nathan, as we bring this to a close. We still have some time left, but wanted to ask you a question. One of the things that we know is that we've recently started a partnership. Dale Carnegie of Orange County has started a partnership with JobzMall. And so the question I would have for you, Nathan, is, what Dale Carnegie human relation principle do you most resonate with as it relates to being that inclusive leader that empowers others?
Now, Steve, thank you for bringing that up. We're very proud, shall I say, with our partnership with Dale Carnegie, and I want to thank you more than anything, John, Oscar, the amazing team Dale Carnegie of Orange County has, and what we try to do as JobzMall is, just like you said, empower everyone that uses our platform as well. And our partnership with Dale Carnegie is exactly for that reason, because what Dale Carnegie has been doing for more than a century is about empowering individuals to pursue their better selves, to pursue their potential. And that's a huge, I think, alignment that what we try to do. In that regard, I think Dale Carnegie human principles are just vast and amazing on its own. At the end of the day, we're all human. And being human, that's what we always use as a tagline, is very, very essential. And that's what I think Dale Carnegie at the end of the day says. We're all human, be human, use people by their first names, right? Acknowledge their, human side. Don't criticize, but give compliments, include them. And I think that's, appreciate them.
Yep.
And I think that's, on that level is a very, very, it's so hard for me to pick one.
Sure.
But it's just, I use those principles. I have that golden book, that mini book, actually. I follow it around. I read it when I can. In that regard, I'm very, very grateful and excited. So our partnership will enable all of our users accessing to Dale Carnegie courses in a more efficient and simple way. So we're very much looking forward to connecting our community with Dale Carnegie.
It's funny in the conversation, the principle that comes to mind is, which I think is the start, if we're wanting to be that leader that makes sure everybody's not only welcome to the table, but that their voice is heard and that they're appreciating their value, is being genuinely interested in that person. When we take the time as leaders to be genuinely interested in what's going on with our people, then I think we build that foundation and build a bridge to having those more fruitful, not only personal relationships, but also professional relationships as well.
Absolutely. And we want to encourage, if you are a leader, you're an HR person, if you have not already, please go to the website, check out JobzMall. I mean, this is a spot to be able to get frontline access to qualified candidates and to ease your access. And if you are somebody, even if you're not currently looking for a job, I would encourage you to go to the website, start a profile, and begin to build that, because there is some fantastic, not only is it just a resume, there's a lot of learning and some things that you can utilize while being and it's just a fun site. You've kind of, in some sense, kind of gamified the application process. True. We've heard a lot about the environment, but it makes it enjoyable. Instead of just looking at a grid and a list and checking a box and filling, you've actually added some dynamics to that to allow the user to enjoy the experience. And fantastic.
That's right. Thank you. It's a virtual mall in which organizations host virtual stores. And the mall is segmented by industries. So you can come in, we have different buildings. You can navigate through buildings, window shop. We call them job shoppers.
Okay.
A term that I really dislike is job hunting.
Okay.
As if we're all in wilderness trying to hunt and kill, so we wanted to change that in that regard. So it's really gamified.
So Nathan, before we end, we want to give you the last word. We have a lot of leaders that are listening in to this conversation, and they're wanting to know, like, what is that one tip, or what is that one practice? And we're going to give you a challenge. Let's see if we can do it in like a minute or less. What is that one tip or one challenge that you would pass on to those leaders that are out there are listening, for them to be more empowering as a leader? What is that one thing that they can do this week?
That's a good question. Out of everything we've been talking about, it's including your people into conversation and empowering them is so essential. So one of the, we have these jar tips and everything, which, is an empty void. It's really hard to, I think leaders just have to realize we're all human. You're there as a leader to empower others, not take their power. I don't think leadership is about taking control. It's giving control. So I think the only thing they can do that I can give as a tip is, they can ask themselves, be honest with yourself, and ask yourself, how much power do I give to people that I lead? And do they have to look up to you for every important decision? Is every important decision given by you? And why is that? Right? And if the answer is, when you sit by yourself and ask yourself honestly, and if the answer is not, tipping towards your people, I think they know the action better than I can give. They should take action for that, because you're there to empower others. You're not there to empower yourself. And they're not there to, just be a follower. They're all there to lead their area. And if they're not a good leader, if they're there not to lead their area, maybe they're not, you hire the wrong person. So that's my, tip. I hope that makes sense.
That's fantastic. And we've said it here before, and Steve, and it's something that we talk about when we're talking with leaders, is people support a world that they help create. And you've nailed that, said, are we giving them the power? And then Steve, if somebody else is listening, you've got resources and things for somebody to help them as a leader get to that empowering. What are some of the things that you've got available for them?
Thanks so much, John. So please go ahead and visit us at ocdalecarnegie.com. One of our programs is our leadership training for managers, in which we give you those processes to help you to empower your people and also to lead them well. Also, I encourage you to go ahead and visit Nathan. He is available on LinkedIn. Go ahead and check out JobzMall.com. I think personally, I think it's a revolutionary idea, one that's being, practiced even now, especially as we emerge from COVID and get to that better normal. There's no better way to get yourself out there by trying a video resume and getting that out. So I encourage you to visit JobzMall.com. And Nathan, we want to say thanks to you. I think this one's a part B.
Yeah, we need to get you back.
All the way to part C. It's always great to see you guys.
And just so you know, we got some love from Pembe.
Oh,
so
she's lovely.
Nice. Fantastic lady with a tremendous amount of leadership experience. Amazing. And she's passed that on to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very grateful.
Awesome. Well, listen, thank you so much, everybody. John, you want to give us a final word?
We want to make sure that if you are watching this and you're learning from this, please make sure that you like, subscribe, share it. We want this content to be something that benefits everybody, even if you didn't catch it live with us today. But we've got it on multiple channels, whether it's Facebook, it's LinkedIn, it's YouTube. We want to see you. We want to have you come back. Thanks again as we sign off today for another Monday. Steve, hope you have a fantastic week.
Have the same thing. We're also on Spotify, Apple iTunes, Google Podcasts to catch a recording. Also, SitchRadio.com. Remember, everyone, managers light a fire under people. Leaders light a fire in people. Bye for now.